Which state is the most stoned in the U.S.? And actually, I was quite surprised by this, so let's take a look. Cannabis consumption is more prevalent in the U.S. than ever. 38 states have some form of legal weed, and roughly half of Americans have at least tried it. While states like California and Michigan lead the nation in cannabis sales, the state that consumes the most pot may surprise you. To find out which state is the most stoned, analysts at Insider Monkey reviewed data from SAMHSA's National Survey on Drug Use and Health. They looked at, quote, the total percentage of residents aged 12 or older who reported consuming cannabis within the last 30 days before the survey. As it turns out, one tiny Northeast state took high honors. According to the analysis, Vermont has the most residents who report consuming cannabis. Nearly 25% of respondents from the maple syrup capital said they used a pot product in the last month. With a nickname like the Green Mountain State, it seems Vermonters take the moniker quite literally. And while there was no data on what type of cannabis is being consumed between adult use or medical, recreational marijuana has been legal in Vermont since 2018, but medical was approved 2 decades ago. Coming in second in the most stoned state race is Alaska. Roughly 22% of residents in the last frontier report using cannabis. Rounding out the top 5 were Oregon, New Mexico, and Washington. One might assume that California would rank somewhere near the top on that pot smoking list, given its long history with cannabis cultivation and medical marijuana. However, the Golden State barely made the list, coming in at number 20. 20 out of 20 on this list, by the way. Only 15% of Californians reported using cannabis in the last month. The lower number could be explained by the fact that many residents live in an area where dispensaries are banned, or perhaps California wineries are just that much more popular. Cannabis is becoming more popular by the day. As markets continue to come online and the federal government mulls reform, the number of people trying pot will only rise. Polls are mixed when it comes to the nationwide average of cannabis consumption, but there's no doubt bud is hitting the big time. What do you guys think? Were you surprised to learn that Vermont smokes more weed than anybody else? I wasn't that surprised, but it was not what I thought would make the top 5, let alone number 1. So,
I mean, is there much else to do in Vermont?
Yeah.
If there is, maple syrup, I'm fucking here for it. I'm sorry, Vermont in the chat, don't get mad at me because I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time there. But it would seem to make sense to me that if there's like, you know, like in cold places where you can't go out all winter, there's a lot of kids because there's nothing else to do but stay home and what makes kids, right? So I think that makes sense to me that Vermont's smoking a bunch of weed, but maybe the Vermont folks are just like, hey, why not? We don't care about admitting to our weed use. So that's probably skewing the polls somewhere.
Good point.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Jenny Beth. Like I have not been out there still. I'm ashamed, but I've heard nothing but positive about. I've heard nothing. I've heard nothing but positive about Vermont weed, about the quality, and about the stoner culture out there. So big ups to Vermont, man.
Yeah, and right now is the season to go to Vermont in the fall when all the leaves are turning colors. It is so beautiful. I have family in Vermont, and they actually make maple syrup, Jenny Beth. So they're sending me a couple gallons over. Maybe I'm gonna let you try some.
On what? Neither of us eat carbs.
I think I'd be fine to just cooking some bacon and letting it soak in that.
I'm Donald Trump. This message.
That sounds very healthy.
Oh, so good, so good.
Very kosher of you, Jason Beck.
Hey, you know, I try to keep it. You know what I mean? I got good numbers yesterday, so yeah, I was stoked.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. No, that's very surprising. I would have thought like Vermont would be up there, but this is like more proof that I need to check Vermont out. Big shout out to Vermont, man.
Rachelle, how is this? Was this based off of just they asked X number of people in every state, and then they're the ones that said the most, or how did that actually work? How do they quantify this?
Yeah, so they looked at this really big nationwide survey on drug use, and basically they analyzed numbers from each state. Anybody 12 or older who reported using cannabis in the last month. That's how they calculated the percentage. So like what percentage of people in this state that were in the survey. And I think that's really interesting that they did people who were 12 or older, not 18 or 21. I'd really like to see them break it down further. Like, which what teens in each state, smoke the most weed, that sort of thing. Not that we want to condone teenage cannabis consumption, but I do think it's interesting that for this specific purpose for Insider Monkey, for them to look at 12 and older versus actual grown-ass people.
This is fascinating. Fascinating. Shout out to Vermont. Congratulations. The green state is truly the green state.
Shout out to Bernie Sanders out there getting it done, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he'd be lit.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man.
Litting like a mitten.
Bernie was high as hell at that inauguration.
That's right.
Legs crossed, mittens on.
Yeah.
Vibing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He had something else to do. He was going to get a snack.
I think he had eyeliner on though.
That's okay.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.